Welcome back, everybody, to the Comic-Con Podcast, Season 2, Episode 24, recording this on June 16th, 2022. Of course, got both your hosts today, Justin, a.k.a. Nemesis Prime, and my buddy Zach. What's up, baby?
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back. Weekly Comic-Con Podcast episode. Always one of the highlights of the week, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And you know where you can find us? Spotify, Google Podcast, iTunes, Anchor FM, and of course our newest platform, we got Amazon Music. So let's get right into it. We have a ton of stuff to talk about. We want to get through this episode. We have so many articles. So let's kind of kick it right with our comic book section. We're going to get into the comic books. Of course, this one is just dropping over at marvel.com, and Zach's going to take this one because I know he's a big fan of this series.
Yeah, so we all know there's a video game coming out here soon, The Midnight Suns, right? And we've been getting a lot of trailers, teasers, and whatnot for the game, but it looks like they got a little bit of a mini series coming to comics as well. So the article is from marvel.com and it's titled The Midnight Suns Rise Again in New Comics Series. So coming in September, Ethan Sachs and Luigi Zagaria assemble a new team of mystical heroes in Midnight Suns #1. So Marvel's fiercest mystical defenders will be called upon to battle a dangerous new enemy in a new limited series by writer Ethan Sachs and artist Luigi Zagaria. Midnight Suns will embrace the legacy of the original fan favorite series with a new lineup that reflects today's Marvel universe. The team's new iteration will consist of Blade, Kushala the Ghost Rider, also known as the Spirit Rider, Magic, Wolverine, Nico Minu, how do you pronounce her name? Minoru from Runaways, and Zoe Laveau, the breakout character from Strange Academy. So they describe this as a dark prophecy and apocalyptic new villains with horrifying powers, the likes of which Earth has never faced before, ordains a new team of Midnight Suns to rise and tear shit up. But what does this new threat have to do with the Sorcerer Supreme's past, and why is Strange Academy student Zoe Laveau #1 on the Suns list? So yeah, man, this looks really cool. The description, it's so funny. Like they put out stuff like Marvel's fiercest mystical defenders will be called upon, right? Wolverine has never been one of Marvel's fiercest mystical defenders. Like, honestly, like I love the lineup. The lineup's great. I love all the characters in this, but they looked at it, right? And they're like, oh shit, okay. I don't know if Blade can carry a title. I don't know if Magic can. Obviously, this new Ghost Rider doesn't have it. We need a big guy. Bring in Wolverine. He's basically just like the Band-Aid for anything Marvel. You know what I mean? It's either him or Spider-Man. Throw him in and it should survive based on them. So yeah, you know, it could be cool. I like the Midnight Suns. I like anything Ghost Rider, obviously. All the supernatural stuff. Like you said, Magic is a great character. More focus on her is awesome. Ethan Sachs, I'm interested to kind of see him write outside of Star Wars, because I feel like that's really all he's been writing lately. Is to actually kind of tackle some of like the Marvel mainstay characters. Will be very interesting. So you know, obviously this is just going to be a 1 through 5, or sorry, 5-issue miniseries, probably to highlight the video game as well and kind of bring new people into that and kind of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Prepare themselves, really.
Prepare and promote off of this and kind of, you know, get a little bit of extra success off the video game. So yeah, man, what do you think? You read this?
It's definitely interesting because, you know, I'm a big Magic fan. Magic as in the character and Magic as in the ability.
And
so
the card game.
Yeah, of course. So it's terrible. It's interesting because the dynamic of the team, if you take away Wolverine, I would be definitely happy with this.
Right.
But, you know, putting in Zoe, who, you know, like they said, is from Strange Academy, you know, new character, getting a little mini series spinoff, and I'm sure we're going to see her again in Strange Academy season 2 or series 2, whatever the next semester is, whenever that comes out. But yeah, I'm excited to see this because it's, you know, it's going to be 5 issues. So it's not something that like you really have to worry about getting into and, oh man, I'm in 10, 15, 20 issues down the line. It's quick. It's simple. Right. I would even like to see, they may even do like they've done these Marvel Fortnite books too with the codes. Maybe you'll get like a code to download a character or, you know, like special costumes that they've been doing, especially with the crossover with Fortnite. So yeah, interesting stuff. And like you said, you know, Ethan's been doing the Star Wars Bounty Hunters for a while now. I'm really interested to see this. The cover is awesome. They got a cool, badass cover from David Nakayama. It comes out in September, like Zach said. And, you know, I think that's really much it.
I agree with you. I honestly kind of almost would be more excited about this if you took out Wolverine, to be honest with you. Like, let some of these other characters kind of like grow and kind of take the spotlight. Like, Did you ever read like Avengers Arena and then Avengers Undercover? It was kind of like Dennis Hopeless did a little mini series and it had Nico in it. It was all kind of like students from across the Marvel universe and they were put
Yep.
on an island. You know what I'm talking about? It was
Yeah,
like
yeah, they had
reality
the
show.
tournament. Yeah, like
Yeah,
Darkhawk was
Murder
in there,
World and all that. Yeah.
X-23, and yeah,
And Nico's great character, man. Like Nico is an awesome character that I feel like also doesn't get enough of her own spotlight, so to speak, you know. So sometimes you bring in these big heavy hitters and the big names like Wolverine and stuff, and I don't know, man. They can overshadow the other characters, which kind of sucks. So
yeah. I feel like that was the same thing with like Savage Avengers, like Volume 1. Like
right,
that series could have done fine without Wolverine, but it's like you bring in Wolverine just to sell more copies because there's such a big influx and fan favorite of him. So it's like
right.
the only way really people would check this out is, hey, it's a Wolverine. Let's put him in there. Like, because the other, 5 characters, like you said, they may not be able to hold their own title, but hell, like throw Wolverine in there, right?
Yeah, right. No, cool. I'm excited about that. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, so that comes out in September. So moving on, we got some indie stuff to talk about for comic books, and this one is actually just over at CBR.com. This was posted on the 14th, exclusive coming on CBR.com. IDW's Crashing, that's the name of the title, combines the boys' superhero extreme gasm with Nurse Jackie medical drama. So interesting stuff. It's a mini series. Like I said, part boys, part Nurse Jackie from the writer of Matthew Klein. This is really interesting stuff. So it's coming out in September. The series combines elements of a medical drama with a superhero story that takes readers from an unpredictability wild ride. And the synopsis, as it's read, is less than 10 years into her rehabilitation. Recovering addict Rose Osler is one of a handful of doctors in the United States who specialize in treating powered individual human beings endowed with a range of incredible and, according to some, functionally dangerous superhuman abilities amid a sudden rising of violence and chaos apparently provoked by these powered citizens. Rose struggles to balance the ghosts of her past with mounting pressure of her professional responsibilities, all while fighting to hold her strained marriage together and avoid the lure of getting high. All right, so we all know what The Boys is about, right?
Right.
So, I'm excited, and we're going to talk about Boys later on in this episode. So I thought this was a perfect thing. But this sounds really interesting. Like it's all about heroes, self control, having like sacrifices that they're going to have to take, and being in like a medical profession. You know, we get that, right? Like we get the whole problems that we've dealt with throughout COVID. People have a lot of mental instability, and now you throw always that mental instability with like superheroes and people having powers. Like this could be a really interesting miniseries, I think, and especially because they're already promoting it as part of The Boys. I'm excited for this. What about you, man?
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I do find it interesting. Didn't we just talk about this not so long ago? It seems like IDW's kind of been getting rid of titles, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so like it's good to see that they've got something coming out, something new, something fresh. And I think just like we said earlier on the Midnight Suns, it being kind of like just a mini series, it almost gives you a little bit more buy-in. Like you don't have to be super invested in it. It's not, gonna go necessarily like a whole 50 issues or something like that. But it's definitely worth checking out. I like the adult stuff for sure. It's great. And tying it into, the thing about it is like superpowers obviously is like so hard to relate to. We'd love to relate to superpowers. But then when you tie it into, real life stuff like The Boys does, and like this title is going to, you know, um, like economical issues or addiction and stuff like that, it does make it a little bit more grounded and makes sense because you're, it's more real. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, definitely check it out. We'll see how it
Yeah,
goes.
it's interesting. Like you said, like IDW is losing all these franchises like GI Joe, Transformers,
Right.
Star Wars. So now it's like it would be interesting to see if like kind of how like Boom Studios was just a was just there, and then all of a sudden it became like this great big company.
Mhm.
I'd like to see if IDW can actually take that to the next level, like with all these more indie titles, because they really don't do too much of out of the norm of
Right.
already franchised series, because it's like Turtles, GI Joe, Transformers, Sonic, like it's all stuff that's already existing. So for them to kind of divulge into all these little miniseries and be more of like an independent company, we could see maybe like a resurgence in like 2023 or 2024, like IDW really coming up as another big player where
Yeah.
we never thought that they were anything but word to land some 80s and 90s cartoons.
You know, it really could be that that's actually like why they got rid of these things because maybe, I mean, we don't know how it works behind the scenes, but like having those franchises like G.I. Joe, Transformers, I'm sure there's clauses in there and whatnot that these are like, you have to always have some kind of an ongoing with that. And so obviously companies like IDW and the smaller ones don't have the bandwidth or the money as like
Mhm.
Marvel and DC do. So it's like, well, shit, man, all of our time and energy is tied up with these things we have to do. Our money makers as well, the GI Joe, the Turtles, the Transformers. They probably were like, look, honestly, those are their three big ones, right? Turtles, Transformers, GI Joes. They probably looked at them and were like, Turtles is the most profitable. Let's cut the other two, and let's start to maybe like revamp and, like you said, maybe be like a new Boom Studios, like who doesn't have any obligation, so to speak, with these franchises. I mean, where did we? I know we talked about this. Did they go to Dark Horse? Where did Transformers and GI Joe go?
Yeah, they're all going to go. It's all going to go to Dark Horse.
So
I
it
think
seems
it's
like
going to
maybe
end.
Dark
It's
Horse
going to
is
run the
leaning
end of
into
the year,
that.
and then yeah, it's going to run out to the end of the year, and then go over to there. So
Yeah, Dark Horse is maybe leaning into, hey, look, give us the franchise. That's all we want to do. The easy buck, whatever, good for them.
mhm.
Because I mean, that's what it seems like they're building up that roster, right? I mean, Dark Horse has Star Wars again. They got the Predator, Alien stuff still. No, that's back at Marvel, right? No,
Yeah, that's at
Alien is.
Marvel.
Um, anyway, but yeah, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with IDW moving forward.
Be on the lookout for more stuff from IDW. I guess that's really the best thing to look at. Like, look
Dude,
at
is
the
like
solicitations. Like, I'm
yeah.
sure people are normally like when I check out solicitations, especially like when I'm doing my monthly ordering. The only thing I was ever going to IDW for was Transformers and Star Wars, and now that Star Wars like High Republic and Star Wars Adventures is gone, I don't really need to look at IDW. But now it's like, hey, maybe I should be checking it out. You know, obviously the only other indie type of book is, of course, the Kill Lock, done by
Right.
Livio, who's been on here, and but that's it. Like I literally just now click on one book, and that's a mini series. So once it's 7 issues, like what else am I going to be really picking up? But now I guess I do have another reason to just kind of check into those solicitations each month.
Yeah, it might end up being I mean, like right now we talked about millions of times. You want to pick up like every number one Boom Studios, right? It could be
Yeah.
that this is the jumping on point for any number one IDW issues. So
hmm So we've done Marvel, we've done indie. So now let's get some DC news for some comic books. So coming over, there's another comic book article at CBR.com, and this is actually coming out of today on June 16th. So Tim Drake lands a new solo Robin series spinning out of his Pride special story. So this past week, we just saw the DC Pride special for Tim Drake. It's a one shot. It's got about 5 different stories in it. Um, there's about 4 of them that are the same. It's kind of continuations, and then there's one that kind of involves him and Batman, which is very interesting. But coming in September and launching out of course, the Batman Urban Legends. In this, we're going to get our first ongoing series for Tim Drake that we haven't seen in quite a long time. The Robin series has always been mainly Tim Drake from the 90s all the way up until like pre New 52. We had that thing ran like 180 issues, I think. And I had them all, and I still think I have all of them. I got to look in all my long boxes, but great series. Of course, now you have the Robin series with Damian, which is fantastic. We've seen a few series come from him, but this one is being announced for, of course, Tim Drake, launching in September, coming from writer Megan Fitzmartin, of course, who's doing the Batman Urban Legends and also the Dark Crisis Young Justice, and artist Riley Rosemay, who does, of course, the Harley Quinn current stuff as the artist on that side. So synopsis, of course, this kinetic high energy series pulls Tim Drake center stage as a mysterious over a year in the making takes shape. A new villain who's been hounding Tim from afar decides to take up personal and close up and personal, putting Bernard and everyone who Tim cares about in peril. All that, and Tim finally carves out the corner of Gotham City just for himself and sets up shop in his very own Murder Shack boat. So, I I don't know how I feel about this.
yeah,
I'm a huge Tim Drake fan because I read the DC Pride special, and it's tough because the DC Pride special, there's a storyline that is continuing with Bernard and also this villain called Chaos who looks pretty badass and it's awesome. But there's obviously a situation that we've seen, and it's finally it's in there with him and Stephanie Brown. And if you are a longtime DC reader, Stephanie Brown and Tim Drake have always been a thing. They've dated on and off. Obviously, Stephanie was a Robin for a time, and there's always been that back and forth with them, even in animation. Like we've seen it in some of these DC animated shows, and no, I don't think movies have really been there, but animated shows we've seen. And I really don't know where they're going to take this character now. Like he
Yeah.
came out way back in urban legends as a bisexual. Like I said, he previously dated Stephanie Brown, even Cassie Sidmark, Wonder Girl, and now all of a sudden they're like changing this character completely around. And I don't know. This series may not do it for me, even though I was a huge Tim Drake fan. Probably my second favorite Robin. No, third favorite Robin. I know that's putting it down on the list, but Tim was always a cool Robin, especially in the early 90s before they introduced Damian and brought back Jason Todd. Like
Right.
he was always the best Robin, in my opinion, in that time frame. And then obviously now there's Damian, but I just don't know how I feel about this title, man. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about this before in terms of some other characters, maybe even with Tim Drake. Like, it's hard, man, because I have no problem with obviously any character that's LGBTQ or whatever, out there coming out or I get it. Like you got to have representation. You want to try to appeal to people. You want the readers to feel like, oh, hey, this is, like I can relate to this character. And like I said before, though, you have to understand there is a risk when you do it with characters like longstanding characters like Tim Drake, who people have already bonded with and already have like an investment in. And then you come and you change them in such a large way. I mean, this isn't like a costume change. I mean, this is a lifestyle, personality. This affects everything for this character, fictional, obviously. But the problem is when you do that, it's not like they just come out. It's not like it's what we've noticed in comics moving forward with characters like Alan oh god,
Scott?
Alan Scott, Iceman, characters that are part of the LGBTQ community. Their characters are now written as that being one of the main things they have to be written about. Like you can't just say, you don't just have a character and say, like, in passing, Tim Drake might make a comment to whoever, let's say Red Hood, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm actually bisexual. I like guys and girls. Boom, move on. Now every story is something that really highlights the fact that he's bisexual. You have to like invest in it, and it's actually like a part of the character, and then it becomes part of the core of the character. You know what I mean? So you take away from what other stories were being told rather than, just to highlight this issue, or this situation with his life or his partner's choice. And I don't agree with it. I'm going to say something that might be moderately controversial. I don't think anyone's special. I don't think your choice of partners sexually, whether it's man, woman, female, doll, whatever you're into, doesn't make you special as a person. Love who you want to love and move on. And everyone should accept that. Like it doesn't make you an interesting person because you love the same sex, the opposite sex, both sexes. Like, come on, man. That's you. Love who you love. That's love, So I think it's tricky, man. It's tricky. And here's the other problem I see coming with this is we just got Tim Drake in Titans, right? So we had him last season. We know he's going to be a bigger part of this next season moving forward. Now, is that also going to affect so when he was brought into the story, the stuff with urban legends, Tim Drake being bisexual had not occurred yet, right? So they had their own storyline planned out with Tim Drake, probably like, oh yeah, we're going to introduce him. He'll be the Robin now moving forward. And now this change in the comics has affected his character to such a topic that is, controversial. You've now kind of tied the hands of the show. Are they going to have to be like, oh shit, okay, now we got to make this guy bisexual as well? And that takes up our storytelling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the same thing goes for the upcoming Gotham Knights video game. Like,
right.
Where are they going to put him? What's his like synopsis and bio in that? Like Tim Drake has always been a great Robin. And even like the Robin series was never like that. It wasn't a constant where there had to be like a female character or a significant other in his storyline. And then remember when like they did Rebirth, the Detective Comics run with that whole like Batwoman, Clayface, Tim.
Oh, it's the best detective. Yeah.
Amazing.
That was
Absolutely amazing.
Tim was awesome.
Yeah. Like he's just so freaking smart. And obviously that was like Tinian writing it. One of the best. Like Detective Comics was kind of like, the Scott Snyder stuff is absolutely epic. The New 52 was interesting in the beginning with like the Tony Daniels and the Joker and Dollmaker, and then it kind of just settled there. Like it was detective, but of course Batman was like the highlight of New 52.
Right.
But when Rebirth came, I loved reading Detective Comics
For
because it was
sure.
coming out every 2 weeks. It had great characters, it had great chemistry, great storylines, and yeah, and Tim was just awesome. And now it's like you're really changing this all around for such a character that's been established for so long. I could see if it was a character that didn't have, you didn't know, right? Like, kind of like a background character that they're kinda pushing forward and like, okay,
Right.
now they're gonna, push them as a bisexual, whether they're female, and now they really wanna have something with another female or male, and they want to go after another male. That's fine. Like we said, completely no problems. But these characters have been so mainstream, and again, he's dated several high
Mhm.
class super heroines in the DC universe. So it's just I
Right.
don't know, man. I don't know how this is going to go going forward, and how long it's going to go because 180 issues is a long time, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, when was the last time we saw like like a B or C level character run like a long series like that? Batman's one thing. Like, Batman's always going to have like an ongoing series, but like Tim Drake and even like Nightwing's, those two series, they ran a whole lot longer than maybe they should have, or maybe they really were that well, they're written that well. So
Mhm.
I don't know how it's going to be come September, but you can get your first issue on sale September 27th. Of course, they're going to have some varied covers as well. Check them out. Again, the article is over at cbr.com. So, we were just talking about the boys or a boys type of comic book earlier. Before we get into our one little article for some DC, TV and movie stuff, of course, we're at the mid-season point for the boys on Amazon
Oh yeah.
Prime. Um, 4 episodes in, 4 episodes left, and I don't even wanna talk about episode for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Whew, that was amazing this past week, but we're talking about The Boys, Amazon Prime. Um, we're probably gonna spoil some stuff, right, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing our mid-season review,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about the first 4 episodes, without pulling any
So
punches. Yeah.
yeah. So if you have not watched The Boys yet, and if you're not caught up, skip over this little part. We're probably gonna be talking about it for a good, like, 10, 15 minutes, but, The Boys season 3 picks up what, like a year after the end of season 2,
Yeah, it seems like it,
roughly.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, because you got Huey. He's kind of now working for this government organization that kind of stops the supers, but in a more diplomatic way.
Right, it's like policing them, pretty
Yes,
much, yeah.
exactly. Like Butcher and the crew. Some of them are still there. Some of them are kind of put their past aside. But man, that first 15 minutes of episode 1, we're gonna get right into it.
Oh,
Um,
man.
the Butcher's crew kind of goes after a superhero that's kind of like Ant-Man, and they completely do the Thanos joke, where, why didn't Ant-Man just kind of go inside somebody and, enlarge himself? And,
Yeah, a little different, though. The Thanos
yeah.
was a different body part that this hero went into, which was
So
weird.
you're, has this ever happened in the comic?
So, with this character, oh, man, what was his name? What's the
Tiny Tim? I don't know.
shrinky dude's name? Yeah, like you said, the Ant-Man guy. Anyway, there is a scene in, I believe it's in, Herogasm. So there's definitely some differences between the comics and the show, and they're both great. You should definitely read the comics. Um, Queen Maeve's character in the comics, which actually they kind of touched on in one of these episodes that we're talking about, she kind of says something to Starlight. She says, "I know everyone thinks I wake up every morning hungover and buried under like an orgy of men." And in the
Mm,
comics, that's exactly how she wakes up every morning. Like that's the truth. That's really who her character is. And I believe it's in Herogasm. She's there and she's hanging out, and the shrinky guy shrinks down and goes inside her woman area and is kind of doing the same thing he's doing in episode 1 here, pleasuring inside. So yeah, we do see that in the comics a little bit.
yeah, absolutely wild. Just going through the head of the penis, and he's snorting coke and sneezes, and just
So
it's
I
gruesome,
was like,
man.
what the hell are we
This
watching, dude?
entire season, I mean, obviously the first episode, but just everything that's been happening this season. I mean, obviously the whole like it's funny, and I don't know. Again, I've never read it, so I just go into it each
Mhm.
episode and having fun. So like when they do the whole like, do you want to be a superhero, which is kind of like a spin off of any type of reality show. Like, is
Right.
that also very similar to the comics or?
Not specifically like that. If it's been a while since I've read it, but it is
Yeah.
kind of like in the comics, the first season we really only got the 7, right? I think
Mhm.
they kind of talked about there being other teams, but it very much is set up almost like think of like Major League Baseball in the comics. You have like your major league team, obviously the 7, and then there's smaller teams that feed into it that you can graduate through. So it's like maybe it's more like actually like school, you know, like
Mhm.
elementary, and you get the middle school team, the high school team, college, and then the majors. So it is more like that, and they do have promotions and stuff. I don't remember, and I could be wrong, but I don't remember there being any kind of like reality show. But it's perfect. I mean, it fits. Like I said, the differences between the comics and the show are there's quite a few, and they are like different, but it's still it still matches the theme of both. You know what I mean? Do you get
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like sometimes you have people like, oh, let's change the comic and the source material so much and try to do our own thing. And it doesn't work. But what they've been doing here, if they were to put an issue out in the comic, it would have felt just right. You know, like they're still following the theme of the comic. So I think that's why both I haven't heard anyone really complain, you know, about
Yeah,
the comics and the show
I have
being
definitely never
different.
heard anything either, and it's just like everything that they do. I feel like everything in the first 2 seasons and now into this 3rd season is what they do is everything that's kind of going on like in real life. So like
Right.
things that they bring in, it's you can relate to. It's not like just like you said, like taking it like doing like The Walking Dead. Like The Walking Dead is always been straight from the comics. They've never really veered away from everything. They've never really included anything that's like been happening. But like they say certain things in these episodes that you're like, oh yeah, I
Oh,
get that because it's real. It's actually really happening in
It's
real
very
life.
it's very political this season, like, but not political in the way like, "Oh god, they're taking a side." I feel like they're throwing punches at all sides, which I
Mhm.
appreciate because both sides, all 3 sides, all 9 sides, whatever, they're all stupid, dude. They're all stupid, and I really appreciate the fact that they go in here and, like, throw punches and take little digs at, like, politics and politicians and, like, the society our society in general and the things that we allow and, like, how bullshit it is, you know? Like
Mhm.
you said, like the reality show, it was like, "Oh, man, who got selected?" But you could see behind the scenes, they choose,
Yep.
and then it's all of a sudden, "Oh, the deep's here." You know, like, what the hell, dude? Like, I hadn't even been in the show. Like, it's total bullshit. Um
Yeah. Of course, I think, and then getting into like the newer characters, and even it's just obviously even the opening scene, you have Charlize Theron, playing
Right.
Stormfront, um, which was just like so cool because we recently just saw her, of course, spoiler in Doctor Strange, if you haven't
Mhm.
seen it already. So like they're really bringing in like these high level actors and actresses, just even if it's like a one off. But this season's all about like Soldier Boy and his, team, and we've seen some crazy things happening, like with Butcher, like taking the temporary V, and
Right.
like really ripping into gunpowder, which is wild.
Yes.
Uh,
Which did you recognize? Did you see realize who that was? That's a dude from, like, Boondock Saints. Sean
oh
Patrick
my God,
Flannery is
yeah,
Gunpowder. I know it's crazy. He's got all that, like, facial hair, and he's obviously older.
yeah, he like a thicker face, but
Yeah.
it's and then like when Homelander like kills Supersonic.
Dude, so let's oh, first off, the guy's name was Termite, the shrinking dude. But,
Okay.
let's talk about Homelander. Honestly, the, um oh god, mind blank here. The actor, uh, Anthony Starr, dude,
Mhm.
he should win some kind of an award. Like he is disturbing as Homelander. Like in his just I love how he's like breaking, kind of like it's almost like he's breaking, but he's not breaking because he's like, look, dude, I'm actually just gonna stop hiding who I am. You know, because the first 2 seasons it was like you could see a break going on where he was like
Mhm.
struggling to be Homelander, what you saw, and then who he really was. But this season, he's just like, fuck it. Here it is. Like, this is me, man. And it's disturbing. It is scary. And I think this actor, Anthony Starr, is just crushing it, dude. Um, I can't believe it's honestly, I don't know, amazing, amazing acting.
Yeah, there's some things that he said like on his breakout speech
Hmm.
that I feel like really hits everything, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like some, and of course then his ratings go up, and I forget the publicist's name, but she's just like, oh yeah, she's like, you're up at this percentage now, and that's how that everybody likes them, right?
Right.
It's all based on like how their views are and how much, you know, almost like exactly like politicians, like, oh, their approval rating is at 98%, or
Right. Or
even
almost like
higher than this.
the comic book community and the influencers, right?
Yeah,
How
it's
many
just
views they get and how many
yeah, exactly. It's exactly
how many
that.
whatnot sales they get.
Yeah.
It's almost like
So,
that.
but there's so many cool characters that that I recognize. Like when they obviously going hunting like for gunpowder, or well, they're trying to look for Soldier Boy. And obviously, they
Mhm.
like you said gunpowder. I said gunpowder, and he's the guy from Boondocks. What's her name? Crimson something like Crimson Cougar or I
Yeah,
forget.
from,
Lori
Walking Dead.
Holden from
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Like, I'm like, "She looks so familiar," and I'm just like and then I hear her voice, and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's, Arya from Walking Dead," like
And it's cool how they're like versions of like, famous MC well, not I don't wanna say MCU, but obviously MCU is the most popular comic books, franchise out there. And she's
mhm,
very much like a Scarlet Witch, you know what I mean? So it's like they're and you got Gunpowder's like he's pretty much like a combination between I feel like Hawkeye and Bucky in a way. Just a
mhm.
kind of a basic dude, no real powers necessarily, and the sidekick. And um yeah, man, the Soldier Boy stuff, it's gonna be really good, I think. Like, I love how they've been setting him up as like he's gonna be bad, dude. He's gonna be real bad.
Yeah, he definitely looks badass from when he first appears, at the end of the most latest episode, episode 4, but
Mhm.
did you see the thing I think it was, like, a couple weeks ago, I remember reading about it, I think I saw it on, like, on Instagram, it was, like, the guy who plays the Deep, he gets, like,
Yeah,
hate
hate mail
from
from Aquaman fans.
yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's fucking great. Oh man, how about I love the Deep. I love the
Oh,
Deep.
yeah, he's so cool.
He's so good. The guy actually, I feel like I could do without at this point, who just kind of sucks and just feels like he's there as A Train. I don't
Oh,
feel like they're
yeah.
doing a ton with this character, but dude, the Deep coming back and that whole scene where he has to eat the squid,
Oh,
that
yeah, the
was like
octo
hard to watch, dude. It was horrible.
No, I think all the characters have their own thing, like, obviously, you get like, a little bit of the origin of Black Noir, like,
Right.
from, like, the
Yeah.
'90s, you see him, like, with his mask off, and he's a black kid, and I forget what's his name, says something to him, and you never see his face again, um,
So that's a
but,
breakaway from the series. I mean, do you know in the original in the comics, like the whole history of Black Noir? Have
no,
you ever heard that? So
I haven't read anything, like, I've never, like, deep dived into any character.
the big twist is that he's
Don't
the
ruin it. No, don't ruin it.
okay, okay.
No, don't
So
ruin it for
there
me.
is a big twist with him, which apparently they are not going that route in the show, which is kind of interesting. It's cool because now we don't know what's going to happen down the road, which I kind of appreciate.
Okay, I'd rather once it happens, then we can talk about it.
Oh no, I mean it's happened. Like it's not happen. It's not gonna
Oh,
happen.
alright, so then alright, now you can talk about it then. Okay,
Oh, okay. Well
then tell
then,
me.
so in the comics, he's a clone of Homelander, and he has the same, and he's kept there as like the check for Homelander. So
Ah,
he has basically the same powers as Homelander, and that's why you never see his face or anything. And Vought has put him in the 7 as like the check if Homelander ever breaks bad. And so at the end of the series, it does like Black Noir kind of like loses his mind and starts attacking. And if I remember correctly, Butcher and Homelander have to team up and fight him.
hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Alright, yeah,
so
they're definitely
obviously,
going completely different.
right, which is cool. Like I think
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah, and that's good. I mean, that's something that I'm sure throws a lot of people off.
Hmm.
Um, what else? I like the A Train stuff is pretty funny. Like when he decides to get
Right.
his black roots and like
The
his brother's
social
like
aspects of it. Yeah.
you've never been into any of this culture stuff, and then he's got
Right.
like he wants to have like the video game, and it was like a slave video game, and I'm just
Yeah,
and they look at
right.
him like
It's
what?
like pulling slave ships or some shit. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's just like
ridiculous.
what?
Well, and I love too how it plays off the reverse. That's what I love about the show is it hits both sides. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it shows the joke, like where he has that commercial and he's like, "Yeah, let's do peace," and then he's
Yep.
selling an energy drink. Like what the fuck does it have to do with like social issues, bro? Like it's so funny. I love how just what's the word? Irreverent the show is. So
Yeah. So it's definitely if you're not watching The Boys, you're doing yourself a service. I think this season is definitely the best, and I still need to really go back and watch the animated Diabolical.
yeah, I only watched the first episode.
Yeah, I see. Like I never did that, but and even like the breakouts, the breakout characters. I think what's her name who plays Starlight? Like
Yes. Oh, she's great.
she's awesome, beautiful. Like
Yes.
um, and then even like what they did with I think it's her name Arena, the chick who has like the mind. who can explode her people's minds or
Oh
heads.
yeah, the one who's like the head of the organization.
Yeah. I can't think. I think that's her name, but like she's like crazy. Like
Mhm.
from like because you get an origin story. Oh, Victoria, that's her name.
Victoria.
Um, yeah, you get like a background on her and like what her story is all about, and even like when you think that what she's gonna do, and then she ends up betraying like her quote unquote father,
Mhm.
is really interesting. And I don't know if that's something that's kind of like done in the comic books, but
No, not really. Not that I
okay.
remember.
So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I like
I'm
the
excited.
guy. What's the dude's name who just got brutally murdered by Homelander? The fast
Oh,
guy,
Supersonic.
Supersonic. Like,
Yes.
even him. Like, I really liked his character. It's just,
Looks they
it's
play
once
off the
again,
boy band thing.
it's
Like,
so great. It's so great. I mean, it's like hard. He always play that stupid song in the background whenever he's
yeah,
on
yeah.
scene, pretty much. Um, but yeah, like I liked his character, and you can see, I really like the fact that they're all superheroes, and I really think they're leaning heavy into it this season. Is they're all superheroes, but they are all deathly afraid of Homelander,
Mhm.
and like
Oh, definitely.
they're like all in the like that conversation between the Deep and A Train in the hallway was amazing, where they basically say, like, how about I tell him you did this? How about I tell him you did that? And it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's really just like everyone's basically surviving, trying to do whatever they can to survive Homelander. So,
Well, it's
and
crazy because yeah, they went from like having that thing on blackmail that they could blackmail him, and
right.
then when he came out, he was just like he's just like, I'm changing everything. He's like, I'll
I
say
don't
what I
care.
want. I'll do
Yeah.
this. Now I'm Starlight's girl, or like boy, like whoa, everything is changing now.
Yeah, it's honestly, I'm kind of I don't know if they've said how long the show's gonna go. I know
Hmm.
they just re-upped for like season 4, renewed for season 4.
Yep.
Um, but is it just me, or are you getting the vibe? Like, I don't know how you go. Let's say if season 4 is the end, then I could understand. But like if you're going past season 4, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you do with Homelander. Like, I feel like you're reaching the point of Homelander's story ending because you're putting all the characters in this situation where it's like, hey,
Hmm.
look, everyone's realizing like this guy's the most dangerous. Like, we got to take this guy out. And you can't just keep pushing that as like the theme for 2 more seasons. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're getting to a breaking point with Homelander this season. So
Yeah, and didn't I forget? Didn't they say that they're doing like a spin-off series?
they're supposed to do the Varsity, which is basically like kind of what I was talking about. It's one of the smaller soup teams that
Mm.
are kind of like coming up and whatever they're supposed to be. I'm actually looking on Wikipedia right now. Um, Interesting enough, one of the reoccurring characters is Patrick Schwarzenegger,
Okay.
Arnold's son, who apparently actually he I saw an article about this. He actually tried out or auditioned for the role of Homelander.
Hmm.
But
See, I'm wondering if they're gonna like take a year off, or it'll be like season 3, and then we're gonna get that, or maybe a season 4, and then the spinoff, and then it kind of branches it together. Instead of maybe them running back to back, or like
yeah,
once the boys ends, then you'll have this a whole other series. But yeah, I'm interested to see what's gonna happen for all these characters because I don't know. Obviously, you said like they're obviously what they're bringing in Hero Gasm and all that.
yeah,
So
that's episode 6, man. That's gonna
yeah,
be
so we're right around
insane,
the corner
dude.
for that one. So.
Like, if you think that if based on the comics, it's hard. I mean, I don't even know what to expect anymore. Like, I did not expect the first 15 minutes to see a shrinking superhero go in the urethra of a penis and
Mhm.
pleasure from the inside. But if that's what happened the first 15 minutes and knowing what happens in like Hero Gasm in the comics, oh my
Mhm.
God, dude. Like, actually, I read, where was it? I found here he goes. Kripke. So the showrunner
Mhm.
stated that Hero Gasm had the craziest dailies he had ever seen and that people were not ready to watch it. So um
All right.
it's gonna be insane, I think.
Hmm.
But
Well,
I
we
can't
got
wait,
4
dude.
more episodes for season 3. We'll of course do our final review in a few weeks. Probably, obviously, that'll be like the end of early June, early July. So,
So, quick question.
yeah.
Out of all the shows we have out like now, comic book-ish related. So yeah, Boys, Ms. Marvel, Obi-Wan. Am I missing any? Those are the only really the 3 that are out right now, right? How do you rank the
Yeah.
3?
Uh,
I feel
Boys
like
number 1.
wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good. Good
It's
call. Good call.
Boys number 1. Um, I don't know, man. I don't really want to talk about Miss Marvel yet, so I just want to say
Well, we're only 2 in. Yeah, we're only 2 in.
we're
So I
only
guess my
2
real
in, and we still
question is,
got, and we have one more left for
yeah,
Obi-Wan. So
my real
Obi-Wan's
question
not
is, do you
really,
take boys over Obi-Wan?
as of now, yeah,
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
Well, it's
But also, the Obi-Wan's not really a comic. I mean,
of
that's
course. I mean,
more
yeah,
fantasy. Like, I guess if you had a DC show on, and that I'll probably talk about next week. I'll talk about a DC show next week. But
yeah.
yeah, I definitely think, obviously I would pick the boys over a lot of shows that have been on like Disney Plus.
Right. Yeah, excuse me. I guess I meant like weekly. These are the 3 shows we have out. Which one are you looking forward to watching each week the most? And I think
Well,
for
if they
me,
all
it's the
came
boys
out at the
also.
same time, if they all came out on Wednesday, immediately I'd watch Obi-Wan, and then I would watch the boys, and then
Because spoiler stuff.
yeah, of
Yeah,
course,
right. Yeah, I have to.
that too.
I'm hating. Side note: I'm hating this double Wednesday with Ms. Marvel and Obi-Wan because it just makes it like once I get past Wednesday, then I'm like, God damn it, like I gotta wait till Friday. You
Mhm.
got the boys, and then after that, I'm waiting all the way till Wednesday again.
Well, it's funny. Like, I actually just started rewatching Loki, and I
Really?
haven't seen that series. Yeah, I haven't seen that series since I watched it when it first, launched. I was like one and done, and now I'm like
Mhm.
going back and trying to just like watch it. And obviously now it's like no anticipation for Mephisto to come out. So, um,
He's gonna show up in the boys, dude. Herogasm. He'll be in Herogasm.
yeah. So let's get to our final article, and then we're gonna get it to what are we currently reading. So of course we are, kind of talking about Obi-Wan. One more final episode for Obi-Wan on Disney Plus, but this is really interesting. This was just posted a couple days ago. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is coming to select theaters both in Canada and United States. So if you live in a city that they're actually doing this, you actually may have a chance. So over at collider.com, especially in Canada, Canada actually gets a nice little added benefit. They have it coming to theaters with a Q&A featuring Hayden Christensen and Deborah Chow, and that's coming next week. So,
Mm.
with this thing that they're doing in theaters, it's actually a mini marathon or marathon of the whole all 6 episodes.
Right.
So, you basically go to the theater, you get to watch all 6 episodes, which is about, they kind of timed it around 5 hours, a little over 5 hours, and then in Canada, you get a little Q&A, which is pretty awesome. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that, it's going to be streaming to other countries that, like us here in the States, we're only going to be able to get just the 6 episodes. Now, would you go and sit 5 hours in the movie theater to watch this?
No, I don't think I would. And I think, am I wrong? I feel like I read or I heard somewhere that it's working up to the last episode, right? So like it kind of like you have to go watch the first 5, then the last one comes out,
Yes.
right? Okay, so no, I wouldn't do that, dude. No way. I mean, it's good. Like I'm enjoying it. I think, like I said, I'm still not to no spoilers past our mid-season review. I still have found from episodes 1 through 3 that it's a little underwhelming. I wouldn't
Mhm.
sit through 5 hours of that. God no.
I don't know. It's if
And I
they
don't
had
feel like the special
breaks.
effects. I don't feel like the special effects are like good enough that I'm like, oh man, I'd love to see this in the big screen because that would be the other tipping point, right? It would be like, oh man, I'd love to see big screen lightsaber battles. There hasn't
Yeah.
been many of them, so
I think
yeah,
it'd be
no,
interesting just to like sit there in a big theater, huge TV screen, nothing. Obviously, even when you watch it at home, there's like all this stuff that's around you, but it just immerses you in that Star Wars universe.
I get
Like
what you're saying. Yeah.
it's, I've used to sit on, I don't know if you did, like when they did the Lord of the Rings extended editions,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my God, sitting there for 3 hours plus 4 hours for Return of the King, it's just amazing. Like, so for sitting there for 5 hours to watch straight Obi-Wan in like a movie format, I don't
So
know.
I think I'd be more likely to watch The Mandalorian because that's the other thing that I feel like Obi-Wan is, and I'm not saying this as a dig on Obi-Wan,
Hmm.
is and I'm saying this in terms of like seeing things on the big screen is we're not seeing a ton of lightsaber battles. You're not seeing any like air warfare, with like
Hmm.
ships and
Yeah,
flying
no space
around. Like
battle
we're
stuff.
not
Yeah.
seeing we're not seeing a lot of those visual cues that are like so famous to Star Wars. Like you're seeing a lot of dialogue and story, and like playing out. Yeah, there's been some cool scenario like the planets they've been on have been decent. I mean, we also have kind of got, I mean, how many times do I got to see a goddamn desert planet in Star Wars? I mean, Christ, how many are there? So, um, I don't know, dude. I don't think so. I don't think I would. I don't think
Okay.
visually it's there for me.
All right. Interesting. Well,
I think it's a
that
good
leads
idea,
us.
though. It's a great idea.
What? Oh, it's yeah, it's definitely
Fun. It's
cool.
fun.
I mean,
It's
they
fun.
do
Yeah.
this all the time, and surprisingly, coming in July, and for anybody who's a Transformers fan, July 10th and the 14th, they're re-releasing Transformers, the first Michael Bay movie
Oh,
for
cool.
like Fathom events, and like I'm a big lover of like the Fathom events when they do these things. Like
Yeah.
they'll have like a few shows. I've done it over the years. They've done like Ghostbusters. They recently did it, I think during COVID. I want to say they did for Transformers the animated movie. Of course, they did it for Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, the 40th anniversary. And it's cool. Like if you've never seen these movies in the theaters, or if you haven't seen them in forever because you're
Mhm.
used to watching it on a small screen, like I'm totally buying tickets for Transformers to see the first one again in theaters. Like I saw that movie, I think of all the Transformers and even movies in general, that was the movie that I saw the most. Like I think I saw it like 3 times within like a week and a half, and then like a month later, and then I would see it as many times as possible. And then IMAX came out. It got re-released in IMAX, and I drove up to like Palisades, New York. People who know the area, Palisades Park Mall, and they have a big IMAX there.
Yeah.
It was like the closest one for me. And seeing that in an IMAX theater was just like mind blown. So I'm excited. I can't wait to go see the big transforming robots again in July.
Sweet.
So let's kind of get on to, of course, ending the show with what are we currently reading? Of course, anything that we're always talking about, comic book related stuff, whether it's new series, old series, or just something that we're just picking up for the first time. So, Zach, what do you got on what are we currently reading?
So, Justin and I kind of talked about this offline. This week was like there was a lot of things came out, but I didn't feel like anything necessarily like popped for me. Like it was like, oh man, it was so good. I mean, they were all good. It was just, it felt like a lot of like progressing the story issues. So, first, before I don't want to get in, I don't want to call it hot garbage, but I've been meaning to bring this up with you and I just haven't said it yet is, dude, I read, and you mentioned it on a
Mhm.
prior episode, The Last Bot Standing. That shit's hard to read, dude. Like
Yep.
that, it is not very good. Am I wrong?
The first issue was good, right? Because it kind
Ah,
of sets up like this world of like the last bot. Like you're trying to figure out who it is. I figured out who it is very
right.
early. Like I figured out. I thought who it was. It was who it was, and it was cool. Like he's on a planet with all these like humanoid type
Esque.
people, and of
Yeah,
course the
right.
like one robot comes and he kills him, and then that's it. But yeah, that second issue, I don't
It's just
understand what the
I
hell's
feel
going
like
on.
there's a lot of dialogue between characters that I don't give two shits about. Like,
They're all new characters though. It's like
right.
way in the future of like a Transformers
Well, I'm even
lore.
talking about the people on the planet that aren't bots. You
Oh,
know what I
that too.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, ugh, what the hell? Like, move past this,
You're really paying for words in that issues.
You are. There is a ton of dialogue in that. And honestly, like, not to, and I know you're a massive Transformers guy, so I'm not trying to like shit on it, but
No, no, it's fine.
it's also coming after The Last Ronin, which was
Yes.
done phenomenally. It's tough to follow. So,
Well, yeah, that's what I thought. We talked about it, a preview about it way before it was going to come out. And yeah, I was excited for the series. And it is not the last bot standing at all.
right. Yeah. So, anyway, so pick of the week, and I won't go into too much depth because, like I said, there wasn't anything that really stood out to me like big time. But Twig number two, I'm really enjoying Twig. I think it's a fun series by Scotty Young, and it's little mini series. It feels like I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. It feels like a video game in a way, like the journey and the quest and everything. And
Mm.
I like the dynamic between the two characters, Twig and his little amoeba dinosaur guy. I don't know what the thing. Are you reading this at all?
I read issue one and I got where you were going with like the whole Zelda thing when you
Yeah,
said it.
right. Yeah, it felt like
I haven't read issue two though, so I'm a little
okay.
behind.
So he's got like that little partner that like looks like a I don't know, like some kind of like organism that also kind of looks like a mini brontosaurus or some shit. I don't know,
Hmm.
but it's funny. Like I'm enjoying that. And then I also really liked Grimm number two. Was
Yeah.
great. I'm really excited for how this story is going and what's going to happen next. And then finally, you mentioned it earlier, man. Kill Lock, Artisan Wraith. I think it was issue 4, right?
Yeah.
Was awesome, dude. The first two miniseries were amazing, and I was kind of like, how can it get better? And
Hmm.
honestly, like this season or this series is like introducing the new characters, the Resolve class. You get a little bit more finding out about the Resolve class in this issue as well, and we're obviously getting more about the Wraith class as well. And yeah, dude, awesome stuff. So
It's pretty. That's pretty wild. Like just the artistry is just amazing. The covers are great too, and
right,
like you said, just them expanding that Livio expanding that world is just something that I loved, and that's what everybody wanted after the first series. Like, oh,
hmm
who's this? What does this have to
right,
do with? But
right.
yeah, awesome picks. That's it. That's
Yep, that's
we
it.
got. So for me, a couple issues, honorable mention. I don't want to talk about Grimm because you already talked about it. Great issue. Batman Urban Legends number 16 kind of puts a couple storylines to bed. Of course, if anyone's reading the Batman Urban Legends, typically it's like 3 or 4 stories. This issue kind of wraps up the Batman and Zatanna story, which was really nice to see. Of course, I'm a huge Zatanna fan, so that was like a 5 or 6 parter that started back in issue 10. And then you had the latest kind of ending of the New Birds of Prey, which is something that we talked about several months ago, which started back in issue 14 of Urban Legends. And the only story that I really wasn't too fond of was, of course, the Ace the Bat Hound, but that's to each his own. Another honorable mention. I know you're not gonna like this, but Naomi season 2, issue number 4, finally is like really picking up this series.
Who's writing it?
Of course,
Is it
Bendis.
Bendis? Is
Yeah,
anyone else allowed to write him? I wasn't sure.
no, I mean it's him and Jamal Campbell, and
Okay.
I think it's Dennis Walker is the colorist. But yeah, it's the same people that did season 1, like the original series. So, but no, it's such a badass issue. Like D, who's obviously also was in the show, the season 1 and done, is also in this, and he's a Thanagarian, and he actually goes to Naomi's planet, and he ends up meeting this guy Zambado and like his group of characters, and they're like cool, they're badass looking, and he basically gets the crap kicked out of him, somehow gets back to Earth, and it's just really interesting because you get like a very good dynamic between D and Naomi.
Mhm.
Of course, and there's no Justice League around, right? Because that's what's going on in the current DC universe. There's no Justice League where Superman, where's Wonder Woman. So she has to kind of like help him in a way. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen with these next 2 issues because it's really finally bringing her world into the DC world, which is something that they've been teasing for quite a long time. But
Right.
my pick of the week, and luckily I was able to find a copy because my local comic shop sold out of it, and I didn't even know about this. It's from Image Comics. It's called Do a Power Bomb. And
Okay.
of course, immediately, like when you think about it, I go, Do a Power Bomb. I was like, is it wrestling related? He goes,
Like
yeah.
a shot,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess that too.
right?
But yeah, so do a power bomb. Of course, when there's like a new series, I always like to read kind of little synopsis. So it just came out this week. So Lona Steelrose, who wants to be a pro wrestler but lives in the shadow of her mother's successful before her, but everything changes when a wrestler obsessed necromancer asks Lona to join the grandest and most dangerous pro wrestling tournament of a lifetime. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's very interesting. It's done real quick. Let me just find this because I want to make sure everyone gets this. So it's written by Daniel Warren Johnson. He's also the artist as well. So he's writing and doing the art, and of course, quote unquote, creator. But yeah, it's really cool. Like, I mean, I'm not big into wrestling anymore. So when
Mhm.
he told me it's sold out, I was just like, all right, maybe I should go pick this up. It's still like cheap. It's like $4 on eBay. So if anybody's listening, when you're listening to this and you want to read something and maybe your shop didn't order this, maybe you want to check it out. So, like I said in the synopsis, something happens to Lona's mother. She becomes a wrestler just like her mom. And then there's this cool like necromancer who basically is telling her that, hey, doing this tournament, it's kind of like a Mortal Kombat. And then it kind of ends with, kind of like a wish that something can happen with Lona if she survives and I guess wins this tournament. So it's again 1 issue in, really interesting. If you're a wrestling fan, you didn't know about this and you want to read something because obviously this is something that typically never comes out, right? We never get wrestling type of comic books unless
I,
it's
I like how the writers like, what can I do for an idea? I got it. I have a wrestling obsessed necromancer, like the character you never thought you were going to see in comics. But hey, awesome.
well, it's really interesting because at the end of the issue, like usually on the back, you get like sometimes they throw like galleries, or they'll show all the covers or kind of like people that write in like notes and stuff.
Right.
the last page, he actually talks about how he created this series.
Interesting.
And it
I
was
always
like,
like those. Yeah.
yeah, it's really awesome. Basically, long story short, it started in 2018, and it's about his daughter and how like she refused to go to sleep, and he was like just talking to her, and they were talking about wrestling, and for the longest time, he never really watched, like he wouldn't let her watch it, but he remembers growing up watching the pro wrestling in Japan,
Mhm.
and then like he kind of got out of it, but now like talking to his daughter about it, and again, it goes back. I don't want to really read this whole article to you, but it's really interesting. And I like that when the creator tells you of like how
Where
it
it came
created
from. Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Um,
That is
so
cool.
yeah, do a power bomb #1 from Image Comics. So
Nice.
just an interesting take on a new series. I'll probably end up sticking with it because it's something that's not superhero related or horror or fantasy. It's
Mhm.
it's wrestling. So that's my pick for what are we currently reading. That's it for myself here on the Comic Con podcast, season 2, episode 24. Of course, if you're listening to this early enough, you can find me probably sometime this weekend doing Whatnot sales, Nemesis_Prime. Zach, what about you? Anything upcoming other than we have booked Terrificon, both of
Booked
us?
it. Yep. Flights. I haven't bought the ticket yet for the con, but
Well, it's sold
that's
out
the
then.
last. Oh no. No, nothing really coming up with me, but I might have a continuing segment weekly based on new news, and it's the Ezra Miller watch list.
Jesus.
So just keep everyone updated on. I told Justin as well offline. My prediction is we do not see the Flash movie. I don't think we're going to end up seeing this Flash movie.
I feel like we should bet on that.
I actually would be down for a bet on it. And like I said, I'd have no problem losing, but I think we should. We'll discuss. What do you say? $50? You want to bet? Or let's do. When's it supposed to come out?
Eggs and boards? I don't even know. Next year now. Because it was supposed to be this year, even prior to all the stuff that went down with
Yeah.
him. But now it's next year because
I was trying to see if we could bet something that like could be payable during Terrificon or something, but maybe we'll think about it. We'll come up with an idea, but we're gonna do a bet. So anyway, long story short, Ezra Miller is basically on the run right now with a young girl that he's been grooming, apparently, according to her parents. And they've been trying to serve a court order on him, and they can't find him. And he did pop back up on social media for a little bit. And
just to check in.
Just know like he wrote, dude, no, really, like it's crazy. Look it up after this. He got on social media and posted like basically on his story. I think it was Instagram. It was just like, you can't find me. I'm in another universe. Like,
oh my God.
Weird shit, dude. Like this guy has issues, bro. So yeah. Okay. Ezra Miller still out there.
All right. Well, yeah, that's Miller Watch. And
Miller
maybe
Watch.
I should start throwing in some fancy
the Flash Watch. Yeah.
Flash Watch. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us for season 2, episode 24, and we will catch you next week. Peace out.
Later, everybody.